I think he'll change. He is committed of his own level of service, and
privileged to bear during so much of my life and duty.
Queen for a very long time. And although you kind of know that this might happen,
The announcement had already been approved. Camilla's name had been placed at the top of the briefing. Palace staff had prepared the official language. The press office was standing by, and one of the monarchy's most respected senior patronages appeared to be hers. But before the document could reach the public, Princess Anne intervened. By sunrise, the appointment had vanished, and the Queen Consort was about to discover that someone inside the family had quietly reversed her triumph. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Camilla believed the struggle was over. She had secured approval to become senior royal patron of the Commonwealth Equestrian Foundation, a position tied to animal welfare, rural communities, and equestrian service. A senior royal patron is the leading royal publicly supporting an organization, lending it attention and influence. For her, this was proof that the palace trusted her judgment beyond her marriage to Charles. It was the recognition she believed years of public endurance had finally earned. The Queen Consort sat alone with the briefing folder open. She traced the printed title with one finger, then told an aide that this appointment would belong to her on merit. The palace communications office had prepared the anniversary announcement. It would place her above every other royal patron connected to the organization. Anne received the file late that evening. She read it twice. The Princess Royal removed her glasses and asked who had examined Camilla's experience before giving her authority over a foundation she had supported for nearly 30 years. No anger crossed her voice. That made the question more dangerous. Before midnight, Anne sent a private memorandum, a formal palace warning to the king's principal private secretary, the official managing Charles's royal business. She identified missing consultations and demanded that the foundation's governing charter, its binding rulebook, be reviewed before publication. At 6:40 the next morning, everything changed. Palace staff removed Camilla's name from the internal schedule and returned the appointment to temporary review without consulting her. The announcement disappeared as though it had never existed. Camilla entered her morning sitting room, expecting to approve the final wording. Instead, an aide placed a blank revised schedule before her. She stared at the empty space, her confidence hardening into shock. "Who removed it?" she asked. The aide hesitated. The Princess Royal requested intervention. Silence followed. What looked like a technical delay was the first strike in a personal battle over legitimacy, experience, and royal service. But to understand why Anne acted before dawn, one must understand what this patronage represented to both women and why neither could surrender it. To the public, it was a dispute over a charitable position. Inside the palace, it carried the weight of two very different royal lives. Camilla saw the patronage as recognition that she had finally crossed the invisible line between acceptance and authority. Anne saw it as something earned through years of mud, injuries, difficult visits, and loyalty without applause. Neither woman was fighting for a name on paper. They were fighting over what service itself was supposed to mean. Anne had spent decades inside the demanding world of equestrian service. The Princess Royal had competed, supported veterinary projects, visited isolated rural centers, and sat privately with volunteers whose work rarely reached the newspapers. Those years mattered because the Commonwealth Equestrian Foundation was not simply a ceremonial charity. It connected animal welfare, sporting discipline, countryside communities, and practical help across Commonwealth nations. Camilla had also built a serious charitable portfolio. The Queen Consort believed that becoming senior patron, the leading royal publicly responsible for supporting an organization, would allow her to bring rural causes, animal welfare, and Commonwealth engagement beneath one powerful role. She did not see herself as stealing Anne's work. She saw an opportunity to prove that her place beside Charles had become something deeper than marriage. Camilla admitted that fear during a private conversation with a longtime aide. She said she was tired of hearing her influence described as an extension of the king's affection. The foundation could become hers through duty, she insisted, and silence those who still treated her royal standing as conditional. Yet even as she spoke, the missing announcement remained between them like a warning. Anne felt something very different. During the quiet drive back from an engagement, she told her lady-in-waiting, a trusted female attendant, who assists a senior royal, that duty lost its meaning when titles were awarded because someone stood closest to the throne. The Princess Royal did not raise her voice. She simply stared ahead and said experience was being rewritten to protect rank. The appointment file made that fear worse. Its recommendation called Camilla the natural senior figure because of her position beside Charles. Anne's decades of involvement had been reduced to one supporting paragraph. To her, that was not an oversight. It was an erasure. Charles had approved the transfer after advisors told him his sister wanted no additional senior patronage. But no one had asked Anne directly. No written refusal existed. The king had acted on an assumption dressed as certainty. Anne placed the recommendation beside a worn folder, filled with reports, notes, and records from years of visits. She tapped the new paper once. They have confused precedence with service. The conflict might still have been contained, but weeks earlier, at one carefully staged ceremony, Camilla had made a decision Anne could not forgive, and that moment had already pushed them past the point of return. The true cause of the reversal was not hidden inside a legal charter or a palace diary. It happened in public, beneath polite applause, during an anniversary reception at Windsor. One sentence from Camilla, delivered with calm confidence, convinced Anne that the proposed appointment was no longer symbolic. It was a declaration of control. Those standing nearby barely reacted, but the Princess Royal heard the meaning immediately, and from that moment forward, she was determined that the transfer would never stand. Camilla arrived believing the evening would prepare the foundation for its next chapter. 3 weeks remained before the planned announcement, and she expected senior trustees, animal welfare specialists, and Commonwealth representatives to begin adjusting to her leadership. A trustee is someone legally responsible for protecting a charity's purpose and decisions. Yet most guests still believed the question of senior patronage remained unsettled. Anne watched carefully. The Princess Royal had not been told that any final transfer had occurred, but the language around her suggested otherwise. Staff spoke of future priorities. Papers carried revised schedules. Conversations shifted toward palace receptions instead of regional visits. Every small detail told her that a private decision was being turned into fact before the foundation itself had agreed. Camilla then spoke to the foundation chairman. She said that once the new arrangement was formalized, the annual program should focus on larger palace events and fewer regional engagements. The Queen Consort described it as modernization, a way to attract greater attention and stronger donors. But Anne heard something else. She heard years of practical service being replaced by ceremony. The remark cut deeply, because regional visits were where the foundation's real work happened. Volunteers met injured riders there. Rural centers received support there. Veterinary teams explained needs that never appeared in polished reports. Anne believed those quiet places gave the patronage its meaning, and Camilla's proposal seemed ready to push them aside. Camilla noticed the change in her expression and approached her near the doorway. She tried to soften the moment, saying every institution had to evolve. Anne answered that no institution should be redesigned before its trustees had even been consulted. The words were controlled, but the warning was unmistakable. Anne made 2 calls that evening. In documented conversations recorded by her secretary, 2 senior foundation figures revealed that palace staff had encouraged them to treat Camilla's appointment as settled, even though the governing council, the group authorized to approve major decisions, had never held its required vote. The final discovery came minutes later. Anne's visit to a rural rehabilitation center had been removed from the calendar and replaced by a reception Camilla planned to host at Clarence House, her London residence. Anne returned home still wearing her coat. She opened the revised schedule, drew a hard line beneath the canceled visit, and told her secretary to obtain the full charter before morning. That charter would give her the power to challenge the appointment, but using it meant facing Camilla directly. And by the time both women entered the same room, Anne no longer intended to request a delay. She intended to say the position had already been taken away. There were no cameras, no smiling courtiers, and no carefully prepared statements when Anne and Camilla finally faced each other. Only a closed door, a polished table, and the appointment folder resting between them like evidence. Camilla arrived expecting an explanation for the delay. Anne came carrying the charter that had destroyed the arrangement. What followed was not a loud royal quarrel. It was something far colder, a direct challenge to the Queen Consort's belief that the title had ever belonged to her. Camilla entered the small private room at Buckingham Palace with her frustration barely contained. The Queen Consort found Anne already seated beside the king's principal private secretary, the senior official responsible for managing Charles's formal royal business. At first, the secretary remained between them, but even his presence could not soften what was coming. The official opened the foundation charter and explained the central failure. The charter was the organization's binding rulebook, setting out how leadership decisions had to be made. It required consultation with the existing lead royal patron and a formal vote by the trustees before any senior appointment could be confirmed. Neither condition had been completed. Camilla turned toward Anne immediately. She accused the Princess Royal of hiding behind procedure to humiliate her after palace staff had already prepared the public announcement. Any concern, she said, could have been raised quietly before her name was placed on the schedule. Anne did not flinch. She answered that she had raised the matter through the correct palace channels. The real humiliation, she warned, would have come when the trustees discovered they had been pressured into accepting a decision already presented as final. That would not merely damage Camilla, it would damage the crown's word. The secretary then withdrew, leaving the two women alone with the documents, and everything neither could avoid saying. Anne opened a separate file. Inside were written statements from 3 trustees, confirming that no vote approving Camilla had ever taken place. The Princess Royal explained that the Foundation Council, the governing group empowered to make major decisions, had held an emergency session that morning. Its members had formally renewed her position as senior royal representative for another 5 years. Camilla gripped the edge of the appointment folder. Her voice tightened as she asked whether Anne had personally demanded the renewed term. "I requested that the Foundation be allowed to choose freely," Anne replied. "They chose continuity." Camilla pushed the folder across the table but did not rise. The triumph she had expected now sat before her as an empty promise. Anne closed the charter and gathered her papers. It was never yours to claim before they gave it. The patronage was settled, but the family conflict was not. Charles now faced an impossible choice: defend his wife or admit that his sister had prevented a damaging breach of royal procedure. The next decision belonged to the king, and whichever side he chose would reveal where authority inside the monarchy truly rested. Charles had approved Camilla's appointment, believing it was routine. Now, the file on his desk told a different story. Trustees had not consented. Anne had not declined. The palace machinery had moved ahead because courtiers assumed the Queen Consort's rank would overcome every objection. For the king, the discovery was deeply personal. Supporting Camilla meant protecting his wife from another public wound. Supporting Anne meant accepting that his own household had allowed loyalty to outrun judgment, and that his sister had been right to intervene. Charles read the correspondence in order, hoping some missing detail would rescue the decision. It did not. The original recommendation praised Camilla's position beside him. Anne's memorandum listed the ignored safeguards. 3 trustee statements denied that any approval vote had taken place, while the Emergency Council resolution confirmed that the Foundation had renewed his sister's patronage instead. The king then learned how the failure had begun. Members of his private office, the small team managing his official work, had treated an informal conversation as permission to accelerate the transfer. No one had ordered them to ignore the rules, but each person assumed the monarch wanted Camilla's appointment completed quickly. That assumption had become action, and action had nearly become public fact. Charles felt the responsibility settle on him. He had wanted the Queen Consort to hold an important role that no critic could dismiss as borrowed influence. He understood how much the position meant to her after years of suspicion and judgment. Yet affection could not repair the method. The process had been rushed because everyone believed his wife's rank would silence resistance. Camilla entered his room carrying the pain of her confrontation with Anne. She asked whether he intended to let the Princess Royal decide the limits of her future. Charles answered carefully. This was no longer about one woman controlling another, he said. It was about whether the crown could demand honesty, consent, and proper conduct from public institutions, while quietly ignoring those standards itself. The warning soon became darker. Charles's legal advisor explained in a documented briefing that forcing the appointment through could trigger trustee resignations. Worse, internal correspondence might become public, showing that palace officials had tried to bypass consultation. Charles found one detail that changed the emotional weight of Anne's challenge. His sister had never named Camilla in her formal objection. She had attacked the broken procedure, not the Queen Consort. That restraint gave him a way to correct the decision without declaring a family war. The king removed Camilla's appointment page from the folder. He folded it once and placed it beside him. Then he signed a directive, a written royal instruction, recognizing the council's vote and preserving Anne's senior patronage. Charles did not call an aide. He remained alone, staring at the folded page, knowing Camilla would experience his decision as abandonment. The internal battle was over, but the punishment had only begun. Invitations would change, offices would be reassigned, and Camilla's expected celebration would vanish from the royal calendar. Anne had regained the patronage on paper. Now the Queen Consort had to watch the palace behave as though her appointment had never existed. Royal reversals are rarely announced with slammed doors. They happen through smaller cruelties: a speech removed from a folder, a name disappearing from an invitation, a seat reassigned before anyone enters the room. Within hours of Charles's directive, every visible trace of Camilla's appointment began to vanish. The Queen Consort had imagined herself walking into the Foundation's anniversary ceremony as its new senior patron. Instead, she discovered that she would attend only as the king's wife, while Anne received the honor. Palace staff rewrote the anniversary program before midday. Anne's keynote address returned to the schedule, along with her leading position in the formal procession and a private meeting with trustees. A keynote address is the main speech of an event, reserved for the person expected to define its purpose. Every restored detail confirmed that the Princess Royal, not Camilla, would stand at the center. Camilla watched her own plans disappear. Her speech about modernizing the Foundation was removed. The donor reception she had intended to host for Commonwealth delegates was canceled. Those losses mattered because she had viewed the ceremony as the public beginning of an independent royal identity. Now the same occasion threatened to expose how completely that future had been taken from her. Camilla told her private secretary she would not attend. She refused to sit near Anne while the Foundation celebrated the very authority she had expected to receive. The Queen Consort feared every glance would carry the same judgment. She had reached for a role and been forced back. Charles urged her to reconsider. The king explained that absence would turn an internal correction into an obvious display of resentment. Camilla understood his reasoning, but his calm words wounded her. Once again, she was being asked to protect the monarchy by swallowing pain without protest. The danger deepened when aides found a limited set of commemorative programs carrying Camilla's proposed title. Commemorative programs are printed guides prepared to mark a special ceremony and preserve its official details. Staff collected the copies and locked them away before guests could see them. One copy was missing. Fear spread quietly through both households. If that program reached a journalist, the palace could no longer dismiss the change as routine scheduling. The abandoned appointment would become undeniable. Camilla entered her dressing room and studied two prepared outfits. One had been chosen for delivering the senior patron's speech. The other was meant for accompanying Charles. She touched the first jacket, paused, then told her dresser to return it to the wardrobe. Anne learned that Camilla would attend after all. An unease broke through her certainty. The Princess Royal had wanted the rules defended, not her sister-in-law publicly crushed. Still, she would not abandon the principle that had made the reversal necessary. On the eve of the ceremony, Anne requested a private meeting with Camilla. No Charles, no secretaries, no advisors. After days of documents and intermediaries, two women would finally speak with nothing standing between them. The meeting lasted less than 20 minutes, yet it changed the emotional meaning of the entire dispute. Anne arrived without files. Camilla brought no aid. For the first time since the appointment collapsed, neither woman spoke through secretaries, charters, or the king. The patronage was no longer negotiable, and both knew it. What remained was the wound beneath it. Camilla's fear that she would never be seen as legitimate, and Anne's fear that duty itself was being reshaped to reward position over sacrifice. Anne had chosen a small sitting room at St. James's Palace for the conversation. The old royal residence was often used for official meetings, but this encounter carried no formal agenda and no written record. The Princess Royal had asked for complete privacy because any secretary in the room would have turned honest words into palace strategy. Anne spoke first. She told Camilla that the Foundation Council's decision would not change and that she would remain senior patron for the renewed 5-year term. The Queen Consort absorbed the statement without argument. She had not come to reclaim the position. She had come to understand why losing it had felt like another judgment on her entire place within the family. Camilla finally admitted what the reversal had reopened. Every responsibility she accepted, she said, was treated as authority borrowed from Charles. Every mistake became proof that she had never belonged. The Queen Consort had believed the Foundation would silence that suspicion. Instead, the cancelled appointment had made the old accusation feel stronger. Anne listened without interrupting. She answered that belonging had never been the issue. Camilla had created meaningful charitable work of her own, and the Princess Royal did not deny it. But the palace had harmed her by trying to manufacture recognition through rank instead of allowing her record to earn trust naturally. A title arranged without consent would never protect her from criticism. It would only deepen it. Anne then disclosed something Camilla had not expected. Through a private proposal sent to the Foundation chairman, she had asked the trustees to offer the Queen Consort the presidency of the new Commonwealth Animal Welfare Initiative. A presidency meant leading a distinct program with real duties, its own budget, and direct responsibility, but without control over the Foundation's existing trustees. Camilla understood the truth slowly. Anne had blocked the senior patronage, but she had not tried to remove her from the work. The Princess Royal had quietly protected another path one Camilla could build without taking authority from anyone else. "Why would you do that after what happened?" Camilla asked. Anne held her gaze. "Because you should not have what was arranged without consent, but you should have the chance to earn what fits you." Camilla offered no apology, and Anne requested none. The Queen Consort extended her hand. After a brief pause, the Princess Royal accepted it. Their understanding remained fragile. The next day would place them before trustees, cameras, and a public already sensing that something unusual had happened. The palace had contained the documents, but it could not hide the altered ceremony, and one image would soon reveal who had prevailed. The palace issued no statement about a reversal. It did not need to. At the Foundation's anniversary ceremony, one photograph captured the entire balance of power. Anne stood at the center, holding the organization's silver insignia, while Camilla applauded several steps away beside Charles. By evening, the image had reached every major newsroom. The public did not know every private detail, but they understood the message instantly. The Princess Royal had kept the patronage, and the Queen Consort had been forced to accept it. Anne arrived at the Royal Mews knowing every gesture would be examined. The historic working stables beside Buckingham Palace often host equestrian events, making them a fitting setting for trustees, riders, animal welfare experts, Commonwealth delegates, volunteers, and invited members of the public. Yet the ceremony now carried another purpose. It would show whether the private peace between the two women could survive public judgment. The Princess Royal delivered the senior patron's address without mentioning the dispute. She spoke instead about regional service, trustee independence, and the danger of turning institutions into impressive symbols without protecting the people doing their real work. Those words mattered because volunteers feared palace ceremony would replace practical support, while trustees needed proof that their right to make decisions remained intact. Anne then delivered the line no one could ignore. "Leadership," she said, "must be received through trust rather than assumed through status." Applause rose across the room. Camilla remained seated in the front row, aware that several guests had turned toward her. Charles watched his wife closely. The king understood that one cold reaction could transform the event into public warfare. When Camilla finally joined the applause, he allowed himself a breath of relief. Her composure had protected all three of them, even as every clap seemed to confirm Anne's victory. The story exploded by evening. A major Sunday newspaper placed the ceremony photograph across its front page beneath the headline, "Anne holds the reins." The article framed the moment as a rare triumph of royal experience over palace hierarchy. A national broadcaster went further. During a documented evening report, its royal correspondent reconstructed the altered program and disclosed that Camilla had originally been expected to deliver a major address. The missing speech became the strongest public evidence that the change had been far more than routine scheduling. Outside the Royal Mews, a small crowd applauded as Anne's car departed. One woman raised a handwritten sign declaring, "Service is earned," while others called the Princess Royal's name. Camilla heard them before approaching her sister-in-law in full view of the cameras. "Congratulations," the Queen Consort said. Anne smiled and accepted her hand. Camilla did not look away. The public saw a winner and a loser, but the final verdict would not be decided by that photograph. It would be decided by what both women did once the applause faded, and by the lesson the monarchy could no longer ignore about rank, trust, and authority that had never truly been earned. In the end, Anne kept the senior patronage. Camilla did not reclaim it. Charles did not overturn the trustees, and the palace never restored the abandoned announcement. The decision was final, yet the deepest consequence was not a title won or lost. It was the principle the reversal forced the monarchy to confront. Rank can open a door, but it cannot manufacture trust. For Anne, the moment defended a lifetime of service. For Camilla, it marked the painful beginning of earning authority differently. The Commonwealth Equestrian Foundation formally confirmed Anne as senior royal patron for another 5 years. A senior patron is the leading royal supporter of an organization, expected to protect its mission and represent its work publicly. The renewed term closed every route through which the decision could be challenged. Her position was no longer under review. It belonged to her. Camilla accepted a different future. The Queen Consort became president of the Commonwealth Animal Welfare Initiative, a separate program with its own trustees, funding, and responsibilities. She would not inherit Anne's authority. She would have to build trust through her own work. Anne soon returned to the Rural Rehabilitation Center, whose visit had been removed from the calendar. The Princess Royal spent hours listening to volunteers and staff, never mentioning the dispute that had nearly displaced her. Her silence carried its own message. She had not fought for attention. She had fought to protect the work. Camilla attended her initiative's first planning meeting without Charles. She arrived with handwritten notes, listened before speaking, and rejected an aide's proposal for a grand palace launch. The Queen Consort wanted the first event held at a regional animal welfare center. This time, recognition would follow service, not replace it. Charles changed the system that had created the crisis. The king ordered that every future senior patronage require documented consultation, trustee approval, and a written assessment of each royal candidate's experience. His decision proved that loyalty to family could not override the integrity of institutions represented by the crown. The palace insider delivered the final disclosure through a documented private account. Anne had never intended to humiliate Camilla or exclude her from meaningful duty. She intervened because allowing the appointment to stand would have reduced royal service to hierarchy alone. Weeks later, Anne received a handwritten note from Camilla thanking her for proposing the separate initiative. The message never mentioned their confrontation. The Princess Royal read it once, placed it inside her desk, and instructed her secretary to send flowers after the Queen Consort's first successful regional visit. Anne emerged as the guardian of a principle. Camilla emerged wounded, but not destroyed. Their resentment became guarded respect, and Charles allowed the monarchy to choose service over status. The patronage remained with Anne. Camilla began building an honor of her own. Authority may be offered, but trust must always be earned. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.